A school bus carrying 26 children was abducted and buried alive. This is the largest kidnapping case in America. To be honest, this is one of the strangest crimes for me. It was in California. Rain was a school bus driver on that fateful day. The man was driving along his usual bus route when he was driving through the countryside. You feel like the countryside is already starting to lead to no good. He noticed a white van that was standing in the middle of the road. Of course, it occurred to Ed that the drivers needed help. They were stuck, stalled, anything could happen, so he stopped the bus. And it was a fatal mistake because 3 armed men in nylon stockings with oversized weapons got out of the van. There were children from 5 to 14 years old on Ed's school bus. Ed was very afraid that the criminals would open fire, so he decided to act with all the instructions of the criminals. So 2 men hijacked the school bus, and the third follows them in a white van. They drove into a secluded area and loaded 26 students and Ed's driver into 2 vans, and then they drove for 12 hours. There was not a single light in the completely boarded up van. Just imagine 12 hours of shaking in a van. Yes, I would unsubscribe. I don't envy Ed at all because he was the only adult and he kept everyone calm at the same time. A man's balls are like that. Meanwhile, dozens of parents at home realize that their children have not returned from school. Authorities found a school bus abandoned in a secluded area, and then the mass panic began. The media did a great job because the whole of America knew about this case. Actually, you can imagine that 26 children, a bus full of school children, just disappeared. The police phone lines were simply bursting with calls. People called with tips and theories. For some reason, it sounds as unusual as possible to me that someone is calling the police and giving advice. As they say, prompters don't give a fuck. Meanwhile, Ed and the 26 students continued to shake in the van. When the car stopped, 3 men opened the van and took Ed away. After a while, they took away another child. After another child and another child, the students who stayed in the van, of course, began to panic. It is unclear whether their friends are alive or not. What were the kidnappers doing? They were just getting to know their students. They found out their names, stripped them, and sent them to the pit. The pit was not easy. The 3 kidnappers dug a hole under the van and buried it there. The van was small, 27 feet long, and now there were 27 people sitting there. There were dirty mattresses on the ground, a small amount of food and water, and now the undressed school children are sitting in this van. They don't know what to expect next. They throw them a roll of toilet paper and say, "Wait, we'll be back soon." They close the hatch and begin to bury it. The situation is just fucked up. But these are just flowers. Of course, there was no ventilation, and the fresh air just wouldn't come through. You might be surprised because the kidnappers are in their early 20s and extremely rich. The family fortune of the gang's leader, Freddie Woods, is $80 million. If you rate it today, it's about $400 million. Fred's accomplices were the brothers James and Richard. The guy's last name is Chauvin. They were also very rich. What exactly do you think prompted them to commit this crime? Everything is very simple. Their parents robbed them of their money because they were lazy blockheads. They had accumulated huge debts. They didn't want to work, and then they came up with this amazing plan. They wanted to kidnap school children and ask for a $5 million ransom from the state of California. Actually, after they buried the children alive, they went home to call the police and inform them that they know where the children are and demand a ransom. But as I said earlier, the police were busy with a huge number of calls. Therefore, the kidnappers simply could not get through and decided that they would get some sleep for now. The line will be free of calls, and in fact, they will inform the police that the children are being held hostage. While the kidnappers were sleeping, the children decided to act. The oldest of the children was 14, plus we remember the guide. They put these dirty, pissed-off mattresses in a pile, stood on each other's shoulders, and tried to open the manhole. The 14-year-old boy managed to open it. He was able to get out. Accordingly, all the other children were pulled out and they were free. How would you like to be free? They found themselves in the woods, completely disoriented, scared, and undressed. It turns out that they were at the quarry all this time. The employee, who had already gone home, noticed that children and one driver were running around, and in general, he immediately realized who these people were. But that's not all. What happened to those 3 bulls? They tried to escape the country at height, but they failed. They were found very quickly and easily. That's because they buried the school children under Freddy's quarry. I remind you, this is the leader of the gang. Plus, several employees saw Freddy digging a huge piece of land. When they were found, it was actually a meme. Because the evidence was just everywhere, they didn't steam at all. The names of the children were on the fast food packages. On the desktop of the computer there was a Lord's document with the name plan. In general, these dudes were imprisoned for life. They appealed, and now, by the way, they're already free. So have a nice dream.